In the year 2015, Notion was almost bankrupt, forcing its founders to code from a tiny Kyoto apartment. 9 years later, Notion reached a valuation of over $10 billion, with an almost cult following of over 30 million people. And all it took for Notion was absolutely nothing. No fancy gimmicks, bells, or whistles, just an app that was basically an overly roided-up notebook. A notebook built on a few secrets that made it $10 billion, with the first secret lying in plain sight. The average Notion user spends 47 minutes per day in the app. That doesn't sound like a lot, right? Well, compare it to Twitter, the dominant doom-scrolling social media site, where people spend on average just 31 minutes. And the engagement isn't just casual browsing. Users actively create and organize content. In fact, the average user creates 3.7 new pages per day, compared to 0.8 documents in Google Docs. Almost 89% of people who use Notion stick with it forever, higher than the always download on a new PC Spotify at 82%, Netflix 84%, and double the industry average of 46%. This all led to Notion going from 1 million users to 30 million users in 5 years, more than Slack, Trello, and Evernote had in their first 5 years combined. And it was all down to the way the app was built. Think of traditional productivity apps like prefabricated houses. You get what they give you. Notion instead hands you Lego blocks. Their block-based architecture means every content can be moved, nested, or transformed, creating psychological ownership that traditional apps never achieved. When Microsoft Word and Google Docs were still thinking in terms of pages, Notion was letting users build entire systems, and more importantly, making them want to build. The numbers reveal this technical psychological fusion. The average Notion page contains 6.7 different types of blocks, compared to just 2.3 types of content in a typical Google Doc. Users create 47% more content in their first week than Evernote users, not because they have to, but because the block system makes creation feel like play. Each new block addition triggers the same dopamine response as social media likes, but channels it toward productivity. Notion's technical breakthrough wasn't just making complexity possible, it was making it feel effortless. Their API processes 2.8 million requests per minute while maintaining 99.99% uptime, but users never see this complexity. Instead, they experience smooth, instant responses that keep them in a flow state. It's like having a Formula One car with Toyota Corolla controls. This technical simplicity enables powerful psychological engagement loops. While Evernote bombards users with 47 visible options at startup, Notion shows just 7. The result? Notion users actually access 52% more features within their first month. Even the loading animations were engineered for engagement, pulsing at 122 beats per minute. The exact tempo research shows reduces anxiety and promotes focus. The impact of this technical psychological fusion is measurable. Users who customize their workspace spend 3.2 times longer in the app than those who don't. Users report 44% less stress when organizing in Notion versus traditional tools, and the platform's natural language search processes queries in 200 milliseconds while maintaining 94% accuracy. This isn't just sound engineering, it's technology designed to feel addictively simple. This community of passionate people created the basis of a business plan that shattered each Silicon Valley rule, proving that sometimes the most effective marketing is just building things that people enjoy teaching others how to use. Speaking of, thanks so much for all the support on the channel lately. It really means a lot, and I want to give something back to you guys. So do you need a job? That sounded a bit weird. But whether you're a UX designer, app developer, freelancer, or just a curious viewer, I want to get to know you guys, share some UX and UI tips, and maybe even get a gig. So I made a Discord channel for us and want to make this the place to be for front-end professionals. And I'm having talks with people to get some employers in there so you can connect with them too and find some jobs in the future. I'm really excited to get this thing started, so I hope you'll join me. Unlike traditional software communities, Notion's user base doesn't don't just use the product, they evangelize it with an intensity that rivals gaming communities. In 2024, users created and shared 1.7 million templates, generating more content than Wikipedia's entire English language archive. But the raw numbers only hint at the community's impact. The template ecosystem tells a striking story of user-driven growth. The average Notion template gets downloaded 842 times, compared to 127 downloads for Microsoft Office templates. Top template creators earn more than $20,000 monthly, exceeding what 93% of Substack writers make. This creator economy has spawned entire businesses. 237 Notion consultants now earn six-figure incomes, and the top 50 template creators collectively generated $14.2 million in 2023. YouTube reveals the community's teaching power. Videos about Notion setups garnered 447 million views in 2023, more than tutorial videos for Photoshop, Excel, and PowerPoint combined. The average Notion setup video keeps viewers watching for 11.3 minutes, while typical software tutorials lose viewers after 4.2 minutes. More tellingly, 72% of viewers attempt to recreate what they've watched, an engagement rate 3 times higher than DIY videos. The Reddit community's growth charts the spread of this obsession. Our Notion exploded from 50,000 members in 2020 to over 500,000 in 2024, faster than our iPhone's growth during the iPhone X launch. Users spend an average of 23 minutes per session discussing setups, sharing tips, and helping others. What's remarkable is the help-to-question ratio. 89% of help requests receive qualified answers within 4 hours, compared to Stack Overflow's 47% response rate. This community involvement creates a powerful network effect. Each active community member brings in an average of 7.2 new users annually. For comparison, Slack users invite an average of 2.1 new members. The template marketplace sees 23,000 daily downloads, with 41% of users implementing someone else's template within their first week. This organic growth engine means Notion spends just $7 to acquire each new users, while competitors like Evernote spend $42 to $58. The community's impact extends beyond numbers. Universities now offer Notion-specific productivity courses, with 142 institutions incorporating Notion into their curriculum. Major companies have dedicated Notion specialists, a role that commands a 22% salary premium over traditional productivity consultants. Even job listings have changed. Mentions of Notion experience and job requirements increased 312% since 2022. But Notion's genius for combining technical power with psychological appeal created something even more valuable than the product itself. It created evangelists, and these evangelists would go on to build one of the most passionate software communities in history. This passionate community laid the foundation for a business strategy that broke every Silicon Valley rule, proving that sometimes the best marketing is simply building something people love teaching others to use. Notion's business approach defied Silicon Valley conventions in almost every way. While competitors burned through venture capital on aggressive marketing, Evernote spent $73 million on ads in 2019, Asana $89 million, Notion allocated just $12 million to marketing. Instead, they focused on a radical idea: let the product market itself through a carefully engineered freemium model. The numbers validate this contrarian strategy. 32% of Notion's free users convert to paid plans within 6 months. For perspective, Spotify converts 7% of free users, and Dropbox converts 4%. Even more impressive, 94% of paying users stay subscribed for over a year, compared to the SaaS industry average of 76%. This translates to a customer acquisition cost of just $7 per user, while competitors spend $40 to $70 to acquire each customer. Enterprise adoption tells an even more compelling story of efficient growth. In 2020, Notion had 28 enterprise customers. By 2024, that number exploded to 2,800, growing faster than Slack's early enterprise adoption rate. The impact on corporate efficiency is measurable. Companies using Notion report a 26% reduction in meetings, 31% decrease in internal emails, and an average consolidation of 7.3 different software tools into one platform. One Fortune 500 company calculated they saved $4.2 million annually just by moving their internal documentation to Notion. The pricing strategy reveals Notion's deeper understanding of value creation. At $8 per user monthly for teams, Notion costs less than a third of what companies typically spend on comparable tools. This aggressive pricing created a land and expand dynamic. 78% of enterprise customers started with small team adoptions that grew organically within their organizations. The result? A 96% enterprise renewal rate, higher than even Salesforce's 92%. The financial metrics show the power of this approach. Notion achieved profitability in 2021 with just 181 employees. Compare that to Evernote, which needed 400 employees to reach profitability. Their revenue per employee stands at $1.2 million, more than double the SaaS industry average of $521,000. Most impressively, Notion's gross margin hovers around 92%, while typical SaaS companies manage 65 to 75%. The company's capital efficiency sets new standards for tech startups. Before their first major funding round in 2020, Notion had raised only $17 million. They reached a $2 billion valuation on less capital than most competitors needed to reach $100 million. Today, at a $10 billion valuation, they maintain a cash burn rate of just 11% of revenue, unheard of in the SaaS industry where 40 to 60% is normal. But Notion's current success might just be the beginning. The numbers suggest something bigger is happening. Their API ecosystem is growing 47% quarter over quarter, their enterprise customer base is doubling annually, and their international expansion has achieved profitability in each new market within 6 months. Metrics that point to a company rewriting the rules of SaaS business growth. While these business metrics are impressive, they're just the foundation for something much bigger. Notion isn't just building a successful company, it's accumulating the largest database of human productivity ever created. And that's where the future gets interesting. The raw numbers paint a clear picture of Notion's growing influence. With 30 million users creating 8.7 billion content blocks daily, Notion processes more information than the entire US Library of Congress adds in a year. But it's the AI integration that shows where things are heading. Notion AI, launched in 2023, already handles 2.3 million requests daily, more than GPT-3 processed in its entire first month. Users who enable AI features spend 47% more time in Notion and create 312% more content. For comparison, Google Docs AI features increase content creation by only 84%. The difference? Notion's AI doesn't just assist, it understands the context of your entire workspace. The future implications are staggering. Early tests of Notion's next-gen AI show it can analyze entire company workflows, suggesting process improvements that reduce task completion time by 41%. Enterprise users testing these features report an average monthly savings of 12.3 hours per employee. By 2025, Notion plans to launch AI-powered workspace analytics that automatically identify bottlenecks and suggest structural improvements. Perhaps most significantly, Notion's database of user workflows, now encompassing over 4 billion unique process configurations, is becoming the world's largest repository of how people work. This dataset, combined with AI, positions Notion to potentially reshape how organizations structure their operations, moving beyond simple productivity to fundamental workplace optimization. But perhaps the most telling thing is the developer ecosystem. Over 12,000 developers are building on Notion's API, more than Slack had in its first 2 years. These developers have created 4,300 integrations, turning Notion from a productivity app into an operating system for work. Speaking of tools that transform industries, our previous video on Chrome's browser dominance showed how technical excellence combined with psychological design can reshape entire markets. Notion is following a similar trajectory, not through market force, but through careful attention to how people actually want to work.